In keeping with the holiday spirit, today's show will be light and uplifting. In fact, the first slide will lift you right up and out of the gravitational field. And now, please, everybody, turn off your camera because the time has come to start the show. The box of treat is unwrapped and ready for plucking. You are looking at the principal dancers of the Dutch National Ballet. The video was done in 2017 to the song Remember, Execute, Forget by Nine Leaves. Malaga-based artist Julio Anaya Cabanding paints well-known masterpieces in public places. The paintings and their ornate frames are hand-painted on unlikely backdrops, such as graffiti-filled walls, crumbling buildings, slabs of stones, and discarded cardboard box panels. The artist's goal is to bring masterworks out of the austere museums which hold them and into locations where they can be seen by chance and by viewers who may not otherwise be aware of them. I'm blowing up the forged masterpieces so you can get a better appreciation of his skill. But remember, the paintings and their frames are painted directly on the surfaces behind them and not separate. Artist Cara Berer creates sculptures from books. She dyes, shreds, and submerges vintage encyclopedias or instruction manuals in water to distort them. With cracked spines and crinkled pages, the books are manipulated to resemble flowers at peak bloom. Using a 100-year-old Graflex camera, Peter Lipke captures nostalgic black and white and sepia tone photographs of New York City in images that evoke a dreamlike quality. He uses an age-old platinum palladium printing process whereby he challenges the viewer to find the beauty beyond the gritty streets. I know somebody in the audience tonight who is really going to be relating to these. I won't say their name. One of the articles I found about Heather Benning's work was called Supersizing Prairie Gothic. It couldn't be a more perfect description of her work. You remember that iconic painting from the 1930s of the hard-bitten Midwestern farm couple standing in front of their house, the man holding a pitchfork? It started an art movement called Prairie Gothic. We'll look at two of her installations, The Dollhouse and Rural Attractions. Benning grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan. The architecture from her childhood, as well as the subsequent loss of the family farm when she was 17, greatly affected her. Her installations, mostly set in rural Canada, focus on themes of nostalgia, change, and placelessness, especially through the impact of industrialized agriculture on local communities. In 2007, Benning acquired a long-abandoned and dilapidated home near a tiny town in Manitoba. Since the building had been abandoned for decades, Benning had to reshingle and refurbish it and fill the interior with vintage furniture and objects. To complete the dollhouse appearance, Benning removed all of the north walls, replacing them with plexiglass so viewers could peer inside just like a child's dollhouse. By sealing the house and keeping the audience at a remove, viewers were forced to take note of what generates a sense of home and to consider our profound desire for reconnection with place. The house stood until 2013 when, as part of the original idea for the project, it was burned to the ground. Quote, "This is maybe particularly poignant at a time when we're increasingly losing our home places to unfettered industry and climate change." In Rural Attractions, Benning presents photographs of a new site-specific project called Kiln in Hand. Here she explores the loss of rural culture by placing 600 resin casts of hands of local tobacco workers in a century-old kiln where tobacco leaves were once dried. You were looking at the tip of Saadiyat Island in Abu Dhabi, a 30-minute drive from Dubai. Here, the works of four architects, clustered within a 1.5 square mile area, are scheduled to open this year. The structure at the top middle of the rendering is Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum, Norman Foster's Zayed National Museum, Tadeo Ando's Maritime Museum, and Zaha Hadid's Performing Arts Center are all in various stages of completion. But the Louvre Abu Dhabi, by Pritzker Prize winner Jean Nouvel, opened in 2017. It runs under an agreement between the United Arab Emirates and France that allows it to use the Louvre's name until 2037 and has been described by the Louvre as France's largest cultural project abroad. It was designed as a floating dome with an intricate web-like pattern that allows the sun to filter through. The overall effect is meant to represent rays of sunlight passing through date palm fronds in an oasis. The 550 diameter dome is an engineering feat created from 7,850 aluminum stars of varying sizes and thicknesses, which tessellate over 8 layers to create a perforated structure that allows the sunlight to be filtered in gradual transitions from sunny to shady as required by the structures below. A team of specialist geotechnical and water engineers designed a watertight basement and tidal pools within the galleries to give the illusion of a museum in the sea. So here you see on the left the dome, and if the dome were to be removed, the buildings, mostly galleries, underneath it. These are photographs, interior and exterior. These are not renderings, by the way. These are photographs of the actual museum. Let's take a closer look at this amazing dome. It's a sandwich with a steel support structure in the middle and 4 cladding layers above and below. Each layer has a different density and rotation. The stars that fit within the geometric spaces, no 2 of which are alike, are comprised from 500,000 aluminum profiles clipped together to allow for thinner and thicker stars. Thicker where shading the water in public areas, and thinner for the individual galleries. Each star has up to 120 profiles. I couldn't resist this. Just so you know, you can buy a studio apartment in one of the Louvre condominiums for a mere $350,000. Not bad, huh? Shintaku Kanoko says, quote, "Sometimes I get naked and put paint all over my body. It is not just a desire or impulse, but started as a necessary act to live as myself. The paint that mixes on my skin helps me to ease the fear that I always have. I constantly face the fear of losing my existence. The paint reminds me of my body, that I exist in this world right at this moment, and therefore I'm still alive." This is a cool promotional video from On Running, created to launch their new shoes called Cloud Go. Studio Voile created a video that extends into the real world using augmented reality and gaming experiences to, quote, switch off gravity, transform, stretch, multiply, deform, and reinvent the world around the wearer. Network of Architecture, an Italian firm, has designed the Hub of Huts, a health resort that appears to defy gravity at the Hotel Hubertus in South Tyrol. Hub of Huts is a group of inverted microstructures with gabled roofs that collectively form a Zen-like refuge for the Alpine Hotel. Together, the structures are intended to evoke the architecture of a mountain village mirrored on water. The extension projects out from the hotel's main building on a platform raised 50 feet above ground and is accessed by a suspended walkway. On the upper level of the Hub of Huts platform are two pools alongside showers and a changing room, all with panoramic views. The lower level of the huts, the upside-down parts, have a foyer, two saunas, showers, and a third outdoor pool. That's the underneath of one of them. This delightful 3-minute documentary needs no explanation beyond its English subtitles. It was created in 2016 by Laurie Malay Partravarsi as her graduate film for the Mel Hoppenheim School of Cinema in Montreal, Canada.
Les femmes sont chanceuses. Elles possèdent le seul organe du corps humain qui sert uniquement au plaisir, le clitoris. Le petit bout qu'on peut voir est en fait le gland du clitoris. Comme un iceberg, sa plus grande partie est cachée à l'intérieur du corps. 2 racines de 10 cm s'étendent de chaque côté. Ce serait grâce à elles que des femmes ont un orgasme vaginal. Le clitoris est comme un petit pénis. Il se gorge de sang et s'allonge lorsqu'il est excité. Mais il est encore plus chatouilleux que le pénis. Le clitoris a été plusieurs fois découvert et redécouvert par des hommes. Même si on connaissait le clitoris dans l'Antiquité, c'est en 1559 que le chirurgien italien Realdo Colombo l'identifie officiellement. 2 ans plus tard, un autre homme prétend plutôt que c'est lui qui l'a découvert. Par la suite, le clitoris a souvent été oublié ou mal représenté dans les livres. Beaucoup d'hommes ont débattu au sujet du clitoris et de l'orgasme féminin. En Grèce antique et au Moyen Âge, l'orgasme est recommandé pour tomber enceinte. Jusqu'au 19e siècle, l'Église catholique conseille même aux femmes de jouir pour libérer leur tension sexuelle. Mais dans les années 1800, des médecins prétendent que l'orgasme provoque chez les femmes des maladies comme l'hystérie, et ils déclarent que le clitoris est un organe complètement inutile. Puis Sigmund Freud, l'ennemi numéro 1 du clitoris, invente le concept de l'orgasme vaginal, et il décrète qu'une femme mature doit trouver son plaisir seulement dans la pénétration. Ainsi commence une vague d'obscurantisme clitoridien. Aujourd'hui, le clitoris vit encore dans l'ombre. Les caresses sont souvent vues comme de simples préliminaires. Pourtant, ce cher clitoris ne demande qu'à être aimé. Et puisqu'il ne sert qu'au plaisir, pourquoi ne pas s'en servir?
Designer and architect Neri Oxman is leading the search for ways in which fabrication, from architecture and engineering to fashion, can be biologically grown rather than constructed using materials and technologies that harmfully impact our environment. As the founder and director of the Mediated Matter research group at MIT's Media Lab, she's pioneering a symbiosis between microorganisms, our bodies, our products, and our buildings. She asks, what if human-made and nature-grown were indistinguishable? This project, called Vespers, consists of 15 death masks which explore themes of past worlds and future technologies. Algorithms emulate organic cellular subdivision, like the formation of life itself, to generate the mask's shapes and colors. These are close-ups of 2 of the masks. So I couldn't resist showing you what she looks like. I know it has nothing to do with anything, but really, how does anyone that's such a genius, visionary, artist, scientist, fashion designer, and architect get to look like this in addition to everything else? By the way, on the Google Doc, I have a link to her TED Talk, or one of her TED Talks, and a really great New York Times article about her. Check them out. Your jaw will drop. Diffusion is a video by Kuhei Nakama, and he has a question too. Why don't humans have patterned textures like animals? A space balloon startup, which plans to fly customers to the edge of space as early as 2024, has signed up its 1,000th customer. The Tucson, Arizona based Worldview sells rides on its space balloons for $50,000 per seat, about 1/9 the price of a spaceflight ticket with Virgin Galactic. This is from the worldview.com website. After viewing our planet from space, many astronauts have experienced overwhelming feelings of awe, transcendence, and connection with humanity as a whole. It's called the overview effect. Every detail of a stratospheric spaceflight is designed to share this transformational experience and a deeper bond to the beautiful place we call home. Each package is a 5-day experience for 8 participants and 2 crew members. Space flights take off before dawn from Worldview spaceports around the world and rise up to 100,000 feet above Earth. You will float above the atmosphere for hours, taking in the blackness of space and witnessing the curvature of the Earth. And this is a little promotional video they have on their site.
Attention, all airports getting clearance to launch control. Avionics. Cap pressure. Safety. We are looking at the work of Cosplay Queen, as she's known to her 3.5 million viewers on YouTube. Her YouTube page links to a website where they sell hanfu plus makeup and accessories. Hanfu is the traditional style of clothing worn by the Han Chinese centuries ago. With so many followers buying makeup inspired by her, she must be making millions of dollars. And what you're going to see is excerpts from one of her very carefully done tutorials. There she is without the makeup.
The World Wildlife Fund honored the Year of the Tiger by teaming with 12 internationally renowned artists for the latest edition of Tomorrow's Tigers. This ongoing project, which began in 2018, aims to raise funds in support of the goal to double the number of tigers in the wild by this year. This is in response to the plight of the wild tiger, whose numbers have shrunk by a shocking 95% over the past century. Taking inspiration from the fabled Tibetan tiger rugs, as well as the splendor of tigers in the wild, they invited each artist to create a unique design which was fabricated by teams of master craftsmen in India using traditional techniques. Each rug is handmade and sold in an edition of 10, except for the one we're looking at now by Ai Weiwei, which is a single edition. I guess I'm supposed to have heard of all of these artists, but honestly, I haven't. Oteza is a Madrid-based men's fashion firm founded in 2011 by Paul Garci de Oteza and Caterina Pinada. Their Spring-Summer 2019 runway show, with dancers donated by the National Ballet of Spain, gathered more online viewers than any in history, more than 45 million. You're going to see why right now. It's got it all: clothes, movement, music, and men. What are we looking at? Any ideas? Yes, some beautiful geometric shapes, but beyond that, anybody have any guesses? Well, keep your eyes in the upper left corner and you'll see. Pastries. Following her time at the University of Architecture and Design, and having worked as an architect and 3D visualizer for several years, the Ukrainian chef Dinara Kasko finds in pastry the ideal terrain to express her creativity. Approaching her cakes and treats as if they were scale models of buildings, Casco utilizes 3D modeling techniques to create silicon cake molds. She first models the designs in a computer modeling application, then prints the master model on a 3D printer, which she uses to cast the silicon molds. She offers workshops where she teaches her techniques both in person in Poland and online, and you can buy her molds on her website, which of course is on the Google Doc. I cannot wait to sign up for one of them. Yeah, we're still looking at cakes. Keep your eyes peeled, more surprises to come. These balloon installations by French artist Charles Pétion need no commentary. The artist says their goal is to change the way in which we see the things we live alongside each day, but really don't notice. More balloons. Employing his preferred media of colorful balloons in air, Masayoshi Matsumoto inflates the empty rubber bags, twisting and tying them to bring life to animals with personalities. No more the domain of children's birthday parties, these are sculptures. Think Jeff Koons. By the way, he has how-to tutorials on his YouTube channel too. And now we've arrived at our grand finale, and a grand finale it really is. Mr. Doodle, aka Sam Cox, who was in his late 20s, took the fine art world by storm when his seemingly playful work started selling at auctions at prices much higher than most expected. His record sale to date for a spring 2019 piece was just a little under $1 million. Most of his pieces now sell for tens of thousands and feature in promotional tie-ups with major brands such as Puma, Fendi, and Samsung. Success, however, took its toll in 2020 when he was hospitalized for 6 weeks owing to stress brought on by the administrative side of his work. Quote, "I went through a wave of hallucinations and delusions from thinking that I was speaking to God to being hired to doodle all over Donald Trump's wall," Cox wrote on his Facebook page shortly afterward. He has since recovered and now has the support of his Ukrainian-born wife, Elena, who is also an artist. Here's Mr. Doodle and his wife, Elena, outside their home in Kent in southeast England. Don't you wonder what his neighbors think about it? So just so you know, there was no digital fakery in what you just saw. It was just an incredibly clever time-lapse video. So the time has come to say goodbye. I will hang around for a little while, as I always do, to answer questions or if you just want to say hi. And reminders again that you will be getting the Google Doc link in your messages very soon, probably tomorrow. And here is my YouTube channel. Again, thanks for taking a look and subscribing. Hope you've had a great time. Hope to see you again soon. Bye, everybody.